The Awakening of Azrael. In the depths of a forgotten forest, shrouded by the mists of time and guarded by the dense canopy above, a sacred site lay hidden. This ancient place, pulsing with the dark energies of centuries, was where Eldur and his assembly of elders gathered under the cloak of night. The air was thick with anticipation as they chanted in the ancient tongue of the night, voices melding into a haunting melody that resonated with the very essence of darkness. Influenced by the vampire god and granted a portion of his formidable power, the elders performed a ritual of resurrection. Their chants grew in intensity, calling upon the mighty Azrael, the first of the elders who had been dead for centuries. As their voices rose to a crescendo, the very fabric of reality began to tremble, small fissures cracking the ground around the sacred site. The power required to summon such a being was immense, and with each word uttered, the balance of the world teetered dangerously towards the brink. Suddenly, with a thunderous roar that echoed through the forest, a portal of dark energy erupted from the ground. From this swirling vortex of shadows, a giant winged beast emerged, its presence so overwhelming that the air around it seemed to warp and weep. Azrael, the ancient harbinger of destruction, unfurled his colossal wings, casting an eclipse over the land. His eyes, burning with an unholy fire, surveyed his summoners. "You have done well to bring me back. I hunger for destruction." Azrael boomed, his voice resonating with the power of the abyss. The elders, despite their own formidable powers, bowed low before him, recognizing the supremacy of the creature they had awakened. However, unbeknownst to them, the act of summoning Azrael had pushed the world's delicate balance to a critical point. Across the globe, at the Undead metropolis, the necromancer, once known as Stephen Lestat, was busy administering his genetically engineered concoctions to the undead. Enhanced far beyond their natural capabilities, these undead beings glowed with a new ferocity, the fire in their eyes a testament to their burgeoning power. "This time, we will not fail," Lestat declared, watching with satisfaction as his creations tested their newfound strengths. Yet, as the undead evolved, pushing the limits of their abilities, the fabric of reality grew thinner, small cracks appearing, threatening to fracture entirely. Deep in the woods, the Lichen God felt the shift in the world's balance. Drawing energy from nature itself, he sent a surge of power to his Lichen followers, energizing them for the struggles ahead. Each pulse of power he sent further strained the already taut balance. The world was on a precipice, with the supernatural forces inadvertently driving it towards an abyss. As these titans of the night drew on increasingly dangerous levels of power, the question loomed: could the world survive the cataclysm they were caught in? Or would their actions unravel the very threads holding reality together? The stage was set for a confrontation of epic proportions, where the fates of gods, monsters, and humans would intertwine in the final chapter of the Crimson Dawn saga. The brink of cataclysm. At Fort Haven and the human camp, an ominous tension hung in the air. Both Alex and Elena at the camp, and Captain Harris and Commander Lewis at Fort Haven, felt a tangible crackle in the atmosphere, a disturbing sign that the fabric of reality itself was being stretched dangerously thin. The uneasy feeling was pervasive, stirring deep concerns about the stability of the world itself. "This feels like the end," Captain Harris murmured, his voice heavy with worry as he observed the sky darken ominously. Commander Lewis nodded in agreement, his gaze fixed on the horizon, where strange lights flickered unnaturally. "If we survive this, it'll be nothing short of a miracle," he added, reflecting the despair and resignation that had begun to take hold among the humans. Meanwhile, At a clandestine location, Elder and his assembly of elders, now allied with the formidable Azrael, plotted their course of action. The presence of Azrael had galvanized the elders, infusing them with a dark resolve. As they strategized, it was agreed that the undead, especially those under the influence of Necros and enhanced by the necromancer's genetic manipulations, posed the greatest immediate threat. Azrael, massive and imposing, his voice echoing like thunder, declared indifferently, "I do not care who we destroy first, but I yearn for destruction. Let it be so." His words were not just a statement, but a decree, setting the path for what was to come. With a newfound vicious intent, the elders, led by the towering Azrael, advanced toward the metropolis, a sprawling city that had become a stronghold for the necromancer and his nightmarish army. The necromancer, ever vigilant and empowered by the dark blessings of Necros, had created an army of abominations, beings that transcended the limitations of both the living and the dead, imbued with horrific enhancements that made them nearly invincible. Sensing the impending threat of the elders, Necros cast his vast, shadowy influence across the realms, alerting his first in command, the necromancer, a master of dark arts and biological terror, readied his formidable forces. His creations, monstrous in form and terrifying in power, stood at the ready, a grotesque testament to the perversion of life and death. As the elders approached the city, the ground beneath them trembled, not just from their formidable march, but from the very clash of titanic forces preparing to collide. The air was thick with the power of ancient magic and the stench of unnatural creation. Back at the human encampments, the leaders prepared for the worst. The skies seemed to mirror their dread, with dark clouds swirling ominously above. The humans, though far removed from the direct conflict, understood that the outcome of this battle could very well determine the fate of all life on Earth. The stage was set, the players were ready, and as the elders neared the metropolis, the world held its breath, waiting for the cataclysm that seemed inevitable. The confrontation between these colossal forces was not just a battle for supremacy, but a fight for the very soul of the planet. The clash of titans. The air was thick with the stench of decay and the sharp tang of fresh blood as Azrael, summoned by Elder and the elders, led a brutal assault on the undead metropolis. Towering over the battlefield, Azrael's monstrous form crushed the undead beneath his colossal feet, his every movement causing the earth itself to tremble. The elders, shrouded in shadows, wielded newly forged weapons of silver, slicing through their enemies with unnatural speed and ferocity. The scene was one of utter chaos and destruction, fitting the dark intentions of those who had called upon such a fearsome ally. However, the undead were not easily vanquished. Enhanced by the necromancer's sinister gene therapy and infused with the wrathful spirit of Necros, the undead god, they retaliated with a horrifying force. Some, more formidable than the rest, even managed to wound the mighty Azrael. Amidst the melee, 4 of elders' elders fell, their ancient blood soaking into the ravaged earth, while hundreds of undead lay dismantled around them. Seeing the tide of battle turn, Elder called for a strategic retreat. "Azrael, we need to regroup," he shouted over the cacophony of clashing metal and unearthly roars, but Azrael, consumed by his destructive nature, ignored Elder's command. The giant continued his rampage, leaving destruction in his wake as he plowed through the undead ranks. It was then that the earth itself seemed to pulse and split as Necros himself appeared. His presence was a palpable force, chilling the very air. With a mere gesture, he brought the mighty Azrael to his knees. The behemoth fell, his body dissolving into shadows as he died, a victim of the godly powers wielded by Necros. "This is how you wish to play?" Necros boomed. his voice echoing like thunder, challenging the very gods. With a dramatic sweep of his arms, he began to resurrect the fallen undead, their bodies piecing together in a grotesque semblance of life. The necromancer watched, a sly grin spreading across his face, delighted by the display of such formidable power. The balance of supernatural forces teetered dangerously as more and more powers not meant for this earth were summoned and manipulated. Elder, in desperate communication with the vampire god, pleaded for intervention. Their god interfered, killing Azrael. He mocks you, my lord, by cheating and using powers unfair in this battle, he argued, his voice a mixture of fury and fear. In response to Elder's entreaties, the vampire god, risking the wrath of other celestial entities and the delicate balance of life and death, resummoned Azrael and the fallen elders. The skies darkened ominously, reality itself seeming to crack and strain under the weight of these divine machinations. Fissures appeared in the fabric of existence, the balance pushed ever closer to the brink of destruction. Meanwhile, far from the battlefield, Simon Winter looked up at the turbulent skies from the solitude of his hidden bunker. The scientist, his face etched with concern and determination, muttered to his frozen wife, "It's coming, Mara." His voice was a whisper of foreboding, hinting at the storm of supernatural forces gathering above and the role he would soon play in the impending chaos. Sanctuary and siege. In the celestial realms, Lysanor, the god of the lichens, felt the tremors that threatened the very fabric of reality. The balance of the world teetered on the brink as supernatural forces clashed with unrestrained ferocity. Sensing an imminent threat against the Alpha and the remaining members of his pack, Lysanor faced a dire choice. The fall of the lichens could push the world beyond redemption, tipping the scales towards an irrevocable rift in reality. However, any excessive divine intervention risked accelerating this catastrophic fracture. With a heavy heart and a wisdom born of ages, Lysanor decided on a compromise. Harnessing his considerable powers, he crafted a sanctuary, a hidden dimension parallel to the earthly realm. Here, his lichens could roam free, their essence still part of the world, yet their bodies shielded in a realm removed from direct conflict. This act, while protective, added yet another strain to the already stretched seams of reality. Meanwhile, the ground of the undead metropolis trembled with the march of an army. The necromancer, emboldened and enraged by the Elder's assault, led his grotesque legion, abominations twisted by biogene therapy concoctions, towards the Elder's stronghold. Their number seemed limitless, their forms horrifying as they advanced with relentless determination. Back at Fort Haven, the situation grew increasingly dire. The ground shook intermittently, and the sky was a tapestry of dark clouds and random bursts of light, signaling the fracturing of reality itself. Amidst this chaos, Captain Harris stood before the gathered inhabitants, his figure a pillar of resolve against the backdrop of despair. "Ladies and gentlemen," Captain Harris began, his voice firm and carrying over the murmurs of anxious civilians, "these are indeed the darkest hours we have ever faced, but it is in darkness that the faintest light shines the brightest. We must hold on to that light. Hope. We must stand together, united not just by our struggle, but by our resolve to endure, to prevail. As long as we breathe, as long as we stand, we fight, not just for survival, but for the future, a future where hope endures undimmed." Across the wasteland, in another human camp, Elena and Alex witnessed the same terrifying phenomena in the sky. Gathering their people, they echoed Captain Harris's sentiments, instilling a renewed vigor to withstand the apocalyptic forces at their doorsteps. "Look up, not with fear, but with defiance," Elena addressed her camp, her voice resolute. "The skies may threaten, but our spirits must soar above. We are more than survivors. We are the bearers of hope. Let that hope bind us, guide us, and lead us through these trials." Alex added, "In unity there is strength. Remember, we've overcome before, and we'll do it again. Stand together, support each other, and keep the flame of hope alive." As both leaders spoke, their words not only fortified the resolve of their people, but also served as a reminder of the human spirit's indomitable will. Even as reality itself seemed on the brink of collapse, the determination to fight, to hope, and to endure persisted, shining as a beacon in the encroaching darkness. The precipice of chaos. The battlefield was set, a stark landscape where the inevitability of violence was palpable. Elder, leader of the elders, stood resolute, his expression one of grim determination as he surveyed the approaching horde. Beside him, the resurrected Azrael towered like a colossus, his form casting long shadows over the land. "As long as they don't cheat again, we can stop them," Elder muttered, his voice barely a whisper against the howling winds. From a vantage point, perched high above the impending carnage, Simon Winter watched intently. His enhanced intellect processed every possible outcome, his mind a whirlwind of calculations and strategies. "It's almost ready," he whispered to himself, his eyes never leaving the spectacle below. His anticipation was not for victory or defeat in the battle itself, but for the chaotic opportunities it might present. As the two forces collided, the air was filled with the sounds of war, metal clashing, unearthly roars, and the screams of the fallen. Azrael, wielding powers not of this earth, decimated the ranks of the undead with sweeping blows that sent bodies flying like rag dolls. Yet, despite his might, the sheer number of the undead overwhelmed the elders. One by one they fell, their ancient blood soaking the battlefield, until only Elder and Serana were left, forced to make a hasty retreat. In the chaos, huge abominations crafted by the necromancer's dark sciences lunged at Azrael. These creatures, grotesque parodies of life, struck with fury, managing to wound the giant before being obliterated by his raw, destructive power. Frustrated and desperate, the necromancer called out to Necros, god of the undead. "This Azrael is too powerful, resurrected and wielding godly powers. How are we supposed to fight such a thing? Necros, god of the undead, hear the call of your servants." In response, the earth itself seemed to groan in protest as Necros emerged once more. Drawing on the profound energies of death itself, he smote Azrael, who fell once again, his form dispersing into shadows that faded into the wind. The rifts in reality grew larger, and the earth shook violently. Fear permeated everything, living and dead, man and god alike, as the potential for catastrophic collapse became more apparent. All around, the creatures of the earth, the spirits of the air, and the souls of the departed sensed the disruption. Panic and terror spread like wildfire, the very fabric of existence seeming to fray at the edges. Amidst this chaos, only Simon Winter remained unfazed, his expression one of cold calculation. From his elevated position, he observed the growing disturbances in reality, knowing that each event brought him closer to his ultimate goal. "One more should do it," he muttered, his voice tinged with a mix of anticipation and foreboding. In his mind's eye, he envisioned the final act of his grand plan, a plan that could either save or doom everything he held dear. The final sundering. As the dust settled from the previous clashes, the necromancer, driven by a vengeful fury, marshaled his remaining forces toward the Elder's stronghold. The undead, once fallen and now reanimated by the dark will of Necros, swelled the ranks with relentless resolve. The time had come to end the Elders, once and for all. At the Elder's stronghold, Elder, desperate and cornered, implored the vampire god for further assistance. "We must not lose this war," he pleaded, his voice echoing through the supernatural channels, convinced by Elder's urgency and unwilling to cede victory to Necros. The vampire god consented to resurrect Azrael once more, despite the evident dangers to the fabric of reality. As the god summoned Azrael back into existence, a palpable tension gripped the cosmos. The air vibrated with the power of the gods clashing, their divine interventions tearing at the seams of reality. Meanwhile, Simon Winter, ever the observer and manipulator, stood calmly amidst the chaos. In a symbolic gesture that seemed almost mundane yet ominously significant, he dropped a single piece of straw onto the ground, a proverbial final straw to break the camel's back. The impact was instantaneous and catastrophic. The cracks in reality, already strained beyond repair, split wide open. The earth shuddered with violence that seemed to echo the anger of the gods themselves. In mere moments, the world shattered, breaking apart like fragile glass struck by the hammer of inevitability. As reality collapsed, everything ceased to exist. The world that once teemed with life, conflict, and the vibrant essence of existence was no more. In its place, there was only void, a chilling, empty space devoid of matter, energy, and the very essence of life itself. This emptiness was not just a physical absence, but a profound emptiness that permeated the remnants of where a world once was. It was an emptiness that extended beyond the absence of life forms. It was the absence of possibility, of futures never to be realized, of histories forever silenced. The supernatural and the mundane, the living and the dead, all distinctions became irrelevant as they were all uniformly erased from existence. In this void, no light shone, no shadows cast. The gods, with their immense powers, had pushed the world past its breaking point, and in doing so, obliterated everything. What remained was a silence as deep as it was eternal, a testament to the destructive consequences of power wielded without foresight or restraint. The remnants of reality hung suspended in nothingness, a stark reminder of what once was, a world vibrant with life, now just a memory in the void of what might have been. The divine accord in the remnants of a shattered existence, within the folds of an alternate reality. Lisanor, the lichen god, sensed the cataclysmic shift. He felt the extinguishing of life and death, the cries of world's occupants, and then a haunting silence that pervaded the universe. Harnessing his divine power, he summoned both Necros and the vampire god to this liminal space. They materialized, their forms tense with the weight of recent events. Lisanor spoke first, his voice solemn and resonant. "The constant strain of our intervention has obliterated the reality we once influenced," he declared, his gaze fixed on his fellow deities. "Our actions, driven by pride and power, have led to the extinction of that world and all its life." Necros and the vampire god reacted with immediate defensiveness, each pointing fingers at the other. "Your reckless ambitions fueled this catastrophe," Necros accused, his voice cold as the grave. "You dared to challenge my authority repeatedly, igniting this conflict," countered the vampire god, his eyes blazing with indignation. Lysanor raised a hand to silence them. "I foresaw the potential for such destruction and have contemplated a solution. However, it requires a sacrifice none of us may be prepared to make." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. To restore the world, one god must amass the combined power of all three. The other two must fall, relinquishing their essence and authority. The vampire god scoffed, arrogance lining his features. "Naturally, it should be me. I am the strongest and most powerful." "You?" Necros sneered. "Your minions needed my power to achieve any significant victory. It's laughable to think you could restore the world alone." Lysanor interrupted their bickering. "There is a way to resolve this. We will create a realm where each of us will begin with a small number of our subjects, proportionate to our strengths. We will also pool random human survivors from just before the collapse to establish communities. These humans will serve as resources for our followers to bolster their ranks." He continued, outlining the plan. "When strong enough, our factions will engage in battle. The victor's flock will determine who among us will be the one god to restore the planet. We will be trapped in this plane of existence, forbidden to interfere directly. Should any of us break this rule, that faction will lose instantly." After some initial arguing and reluctance, the necessity of the situation and the potential to regain their powers and influence led the three gods to an uneasy agreement. Each god recognized the stakes. They were not only fighting for supremacy, but for the chance to redefine their legacy and perhaps correct the arrogance that had led them to this point. Thus, with a combination of mutual distrust and a shared desire to undo the damage they had caused, they initiated the creation of this new realm, a battleground for deities, set apart from the realm of mortals yet deeply intertwined with the fate of countless souls. This agreement marked not only a new beginning, but also an acknowledgement of their collective responsibility for the worlds under their influence. The game of gods. With a thunderous crash that echoed through the void left by the shattered reality, a new realm sprang into existence. The three gods, pooling their residual powers, crafted a world designed as a grand arena for the ultimate test of supremacy. As their powers waned to mere embers from the exertion, an impenetrable barrier formed around them, separating their sanctuaries from the rest of this newly forged world. This barrier was designed to prevent any direct interference from the gods and served as sanctuary for them to slowly regenerate their strength. In this constructed realm, distance and direction held new meanings. To the south, the Elders established their domain. Elder, alongside Serana and 20 of their most formidable kin, commanded a dark, imposing castle that rose from the mist-shrouded lands like a spectre. Their stronghold was a bastion of ancient power and dark majesty, reflecting the grave nature of the undead essence. To the north lay the domain of the Undead, a fortified city of death that teemed with thousands of warriors. The Necromancer, with his profound mastery of death and decay, ruled over this city. Its walls, built from the bones of the fallen and cemented with the ash of decay, stood as a grim reminder of the Necromancer's power and the relentless nature of his army. In the east, the Lycans took to the primeval forests, where the new Alpha and a pack of 9 formidable Lycans constructed a sprawling treetop complex. Their stronghold, interwoven among the towering trees, was both a fortress and a testament to their deep connection with nature. The Lycans, fierce and proud, prepared to defend their territory with tooth and claw. To the west, a large human stronghold emerged, bustling with activity and life. This was the ultimate prize for the factions, a repository of not just human life, but of potential power. The humans, unknowing but essential players in this divine game, continued their existence, bolstered by small laboratories, engineering posts, and farms scattered throughout their stronghold and various outposts. These installations ensured that the human population could thrive, unwittingly serving the greater game set by the gods. Scattered between these strongholds, smaller outposts and towns populated by humans dotted the landscape, serving as both strategic points and stock for the supernatural factions. Each faction viewed these human enclaves both as a resource and a battleground, pivotal to their strategy for dominance. The stage was set, the players positioned, and the stakes declared. Only one deity would emerge with the power to restore reality, to mend the fabric torn by their collective hubris. This realm, born of divine compromise and desperation, was now the arena where the future of existence itself would be decided. The gods watched, their omnipotence paused, as their creations and champions moved towards an inevitable clash that would determine the very nature of their existence and perhaps the fate of all reality. The calculations of winter. In the newly forged realm, the cycles of day and night seemed indifferent to the turmoil that had birthed them. In a small outpost to the east, closest to the territories of the Lycan, humans went about their daily lives with a simplicity that belied the complex orchestrations around them. Here, farming, trading, and community growth continued as if woven from the fabric of an ordinary world. Their memories of past cataclysms had faded into a hazy blur, a testament to the resilience, or perhaps the manipulation, of human consciousness. Among them walked a man with a deliberate stride, his presence slightly out of sync with the rustic charm of his surroundings. He entered the engineer's workshop, a hub of roll-clattering tools and the hum of innovation, where the community's brightest minds forged equipment essential for their survival and growth. The engineers, absorbed in their tasks, nodded as he approached, recognizing his intent, if not fully understanding the depth of his purpose. After spending considerable time among the schematics and metalworks, the man emerged. His appearance had transformed. Now he wore a chrome mask, sleek and reflective, hiding his features, but not his resolve. This mask, crafted with his own hands, was a shield and a symbol, a culmination of his calculations and intentions. Stepping out of the outpost, he paused to survey the expanse before him. The vast lands stretched out, untouched by his steps, yet inevitably part of his plan. As he began his solitary journey into the distance, his voice, though muffled by the mask, carried a tone of finality and satisfaction. "My calculations were perfect," Winter said, his words lingering in the air like a quiet declaration of impending change. With those words, Simon Winter set off alone, his figure a solitary silhouette against the sprawling horizon. His journey was his own, as enigmatic and profound as the calculations that propelled him. In this realm shaped by gods and tested by conflict, Winter's path was an echo of human ingenuity and determination, a thread woven into the larger tapestry of divine and mortal narratives. As the story closes on Winter's departing figure, the implications of his perfect calculations remain a mystery, poised on the brink of revelation. What unfolds next in this world, reborn from divine conflict and human resilience, is left to the imagination, a realm of possibilities as vast as the universe once shattered, and now perhaps on the cusp of restoration. Coming soon, Crimson Dawn, Season 3, Game of the Gods. The universe has shattered, the balance of power has shifted, and the gods have thrown down the gauntlet in a realm created from the ashes of a once vibrant reality. As the game unfolds, destinies intertwine and fates hang in the balance. Welcome to Crimson Dawn, Season 3, Game of the Gods, where every move is critical and the stakes are higher than ever. Which god will claim supremacy in this ultimate contest of divine will? As Lysanor, Necros, and the vampire god deploy their factions in a strategic battle for dominance, the survival of their very essence is at risk. Will the gods relinquish their power if defeated, or will the lure of supremacy drive them to unforeseen heights of manipulation and conflict? The human stronghold buzzes with life, unaware of its critical role in this celestial game. Will these communities merely serve as pawns for the supernatural factions, or will they rise as unexpected players in the quest for balanced restoration? Amidst this chaos, the brilliant and enigmatic Simon Winter continues his own mysterious mission. With the fate of his beloved Mara hanging in the balance, will Winter harness enough power to alter the course of this divine war? And what of Elder, the new alpha of the Lycans and the Necromancer? Stripped of direct divine intervention, can they adapt and survive? Or will they find their powers waning as the game intensifies? Meanwhile, familiar faces like Alex, Captain Knox, Elena, Marco, Nina and Rebecca find themselves scattered across this new world. Each of them must navigate the treacherous landscapes and alliances that form around them. Will they find each other? Or will new allegiances reshape their destinies? Captain Harris, Commander Lewis, and Samantha face their own dilemmas. As leaders of the human stronghold, their decisions could sway the tide of war. Can they protect their people and maintain hope in a world where gods play games with the very fabric of reality? Can the world ever be restored? Or will the new realm evolve into something entirely different, governed by the outcomes of this divine conflict? All these questions and more will be answered in the upcoming season of Crimson Dawn. Prepare for a season filled with intense battles, strategic alliances, and the profound drama of survival and supremacy. Join us as the game of the gods unfolds and witness the fate of a world reborn from chaos. Stay tuned for Crimson Dawn, Season 3, Game of the Gods, where the end is just the beginning.